Over the next few decades, the metaverse will become immensely more advanced and integrated in our daily lives. Some people think the metaverse is just a hype. Others believe it to be the greatest evolution of the internet. Together with the sharpest minds in this space, we are going to explore the future of the metaverse. We want to understand the impacts of this new world, and in this show, we will find the answers. Welcome to Metaverse Mentors.
Ground related, and then we just start. So, Barbara, welcome. Oh, whoa, this was very loud. 1 second. Before you are going to be deaf. Okay, today we have Barbara at Metaverse Mentors. Barbara, welcome for joining Metaverse Mentors.
Thank you, Samir, for inviting me. I'm really honored and happy to talk about one of my favorite topics to you today.
I'm even more honored, really looking forward to it. Could you tell us, for the listeners who don't know you, could you tell us a bit about your background and your relation with this team, the Metaverse?
Yeah, so I've been excited and fascinated by different worlds since I was a kid. And as a kid, and I think all kids do, I created different shapes and forms of different kinds of worlds already. But I took this also into my professional life. During my studies already, I created avatars and early graphical chat rooms. This was in the 90s. I moved on to become one of the co-founders of and co-creators, like the art director of one of the very first European online societies and virtual worlds. It was called like that back in the day. It was called Papermint, and I think I learned many lessons from that, how these kind of online worlds and societies will develop in the future. I worked a lot in the video games industry. I moved to Japan and learned the craft, the difference between a character and an avatar, like really from the best of the best. It was amazing. And after many years in the games industry, I somehow got a bit bored and did a creative sabbatical in London, where I graduated from an acting school, which was amazing because I could become a character myself and also learned for myself what is it to be an avatar, like an empty bottle, to be filled with the ideas of the director, or to become a real character with its own drive and history. Then the creative urge to go back into real-time interactive stuff got me into VR. So VR was coming back in its third wave.
What year was this, Barbara?
It was 2014. And
Yeah.
I was so super excited when I tested the first Oculus Dev Kit. I knew instantly this is the holodeck, like the Star Trek holodeck. I grew up with Star Trek as a kid. I read a lot of sci-fi. I played Masters of the Universe. I was really into all these different worlds and futuristic utopias. And for me, this was, wow, this is the way to enter these kind of worlds. It's not a text chat. It's not a flat screen. Even if it's called 3D online world, it's not a flat screen. You are in it. You're present. So I started my own VR production company, and I produced one of the very first dramas for VR. This was like stereoscopic, super high resolution stereoscopic stuff. But I very soon again changed into real-time interactive and put like game elements in. And well, then I was lucky enough to be asked to become one of the co-founders of Holodeck VR, a tech company that was indeed building holodecks. So holodecks meaning not like in the Star Trek sense, but you need VR glasses to enter these kind of worlds. But we developed a technology that allowed a lot of users to enter VR worlds at the same time, simultaneously, and move around freely. So this was back then, 2017. a really exciting thing, and I was very happy to be part of that. Well, and now Holodeck is doing well. They offer a lot of fun for kids, birthday parties, big groups for kids. And I'm super excited that the term metaverse finally uh, comes into the public discourse and public discussion, and everyone now seems to think about what we're actually building there since, well, now almost 40 years. And now it's like really graspable for a lot of people. A lot of missing parts are there and they melt together and merge together. Now it's the time we can really bring these metaverse into a mainstream discussion. So it's very interesting and exciting. So I'm now consulting about the metaverse, especially about the social implications, the looks of avatars, how they should behave or can behave, like the etiquette within these worlds, and the world design. So it's exciting times.
Thanks for sharing that background. And of course, I also did some pre-homework before meeting you. And I know you actually wrote a thesis about a very interesting topic, which is becoming increasingly more relevant with regards to digital characters. Could you perhaps tell us briefly something about that?
Yeah, I think you might refer about my PhD thesis back 2006, which is interesting because it was right before Facebook games really hit the market. So I concentrated on console games, and I compared the Western world with Japan, because I've been living and working there, and especially how female gamers respond to these products from the West and the East. And in my research, I really found that a lot of female gamers were very interested back then in the Japanese games, because they offered what then later on all the casual games, be it Facebook games or then enabled by the smartphone, the iPhone games would be. So now the female player percentage is much higher than it was back then, because it added something, especially graphically, that seemed to appeal to a female audience, which is more colorful, cartoony, more fantastic, I would say. So when you remember maybe the early 90s or mid 90s, it was all about 3D was like a really big thing, and people were excited, the creators were excited, and everything should look as realistic as possible. Of course, it looked crap because back then technology was not that good, but still everything looked, I would say, grayer than reality was somehow. So it did not excite me, so I was very happy to be in Japan, where I could learn a lot of different styles, and like the love for colors, and like the soul in characters, the spirit in characters. While in the West, it was kind of, trying to simulate reality. Right now, we see this wave coming back again in VR and the metaverse, where the discourse is, like people try to simulate reality again, which is more possible now, but still not really possible. Even visually, it's not possible, though they put a lot of effort in it, and it's becoming better and better, and everything, like fake avatars, you might not even be able to discover them from real people, as they use in fake news and everything. But I don't think it's enough to copy the visual level to copy a real world. A real world is much more than the visual level. So maybe a book or a text adventure does feel more real than the most amazing high-resolution 3D world. So this was one of the research topics I had, but also I researched the impact of games on the players, and how they would be enthralled to go into or pursue a career in the games industry. And I found that, yes, of course, if you play games and you get fascinated and hooked, of course you are more interested to enter a career. But this is even more important for female players, because we need a more diverse workforce in the games, and the metaverse designing industry, because the metaverse again is another chance to build a world for everyone. And I have some profound thoughts about this, and I'm happy to discuss more on this topic if you want.
Absolutely, absolutely. What do you think currently? Because you spoke a bit about avatars, and I see avatar companies also integrating AI in those avatars, popping up like mushrooms, and it got increasingly exponential attention since the announcement of Facebook. What do you think at the moment are the key questions around this idea of virtual avatars, and perhaps how have the questions with the metaverse been evolved from when you were working on it in 2014 and where we are now? Because I can imagine that technology is increasingly more sophisticated at the moment, but perhaps we are still implementing old thought patterns, or I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
To be honest, I feel a bit embarrassed that the discussion has not moved on, it seems, although technology, of course, has become better and everyone works around, better graphics, better sound, better whatever, measuring your biometrics. But we are creating worlds here, so we are the gods. This responsibility that comes with creating the worlds and these inhabitants of the world has not been discussed further, it seems. So unfortunately, these examples of avatar harassment in Facebook Horizon Worlds and stuff, why is this still happening? Have people not thought about this? What about the last 40 years? So as soon as you put people into a virtual world that look like people, again, if you are not imaginative enough to identify with an amorph character or an apple or an animal or whatever, but again need a human shape, then the same problems, unfortunately, that we have in the biological or physical world as humans in our physical bodies are repeated. So unfortunately, a lot of female avatars have the problem of being harassed, because this is just how it's copied from the real world. But finally we are able to create a world without physical and biological laws and limits. So why do we need to be represented as humans with genders or sex? We don't reproduce in a meta world like we do in the real world, so why do we even have secondary sexual organs to show?
So would you suggest that solution would be to represent myself as an I don't know, as an animal in the metaverse, or what do you think?
So there are different routes, I guess, and it seems strange. Where are all the guidelines or the ideas? What do the people think about actually when they create, let's say, horizons, or what do they design? It seems they're very concentrated on the tech stuff, of course, that it works, and it seems like sorry to say, but a program, a solution to put like these safety bubbles around a character, or like these safety zones. It's not at all practical, and it's not at all natural, it's not intuitive. So it depends on the kind of metaverse or let's say the virtual world you're building. Is the metaverse the one that connects all the virtual worlds that now companies all over the world are building, or is the metaverse just this single bubble? So it's a definition problem. But let's say let's take the metaverse of one company. Then it depends, of course, on the style of this metaverse. If it's a World of Warcraft metaverse, then you can implement things like that are fantastic and super powery. If I choose a female character, why not give all female avatars a special superpower that can be turned on as quickly as on the tap of a button or click, where as soon as another character harasses you somehow, you can dissolve this other character for a few seconds, or slash him, or a big flash in the world and it's shaken. Everyone maybe is even is made to know about this incident. This would be super cool. And if only these female characters would have this power, because I think I don't know, since the dawn of mankind, when females might have been the victims of physical power of stronger people, and these mostly are men, they would have wished to have this secret power only they possess to defend themselves. So why not put this in? Or you can just make the other one invisible for a few seconds, not yourself. Like it's also suggested in
So let's say Barbara, a venture capitalist, would approach Barbara with unlimited amount of capital, and you could design your
oh
own
my god, yeah.
metaverse. What would that look like?
It would look super different from the real world. It would look very fantastic. I would like to hire artists and philosophers and people who think beyond reality, because this is what we're building. Of course, there is the movement of digital twins, but this is not what excites me. I don't need a planet B because we're still here on planet A, and this planet A is amazing, and I want to live in it and save it and enjoy everything this planet has to give to me. But if there are only two options, if we destroy planet A, yeah, of course, then we want to rebuild it as planet B, then we need to simulate reality. But if we still have it, then let's go wild and go beyond what we know, because I think the inherent urge why we're actually building a metaverse, and this is maybe the question that is not asked often enough: why are we building this? Just because we can, because technology is there, cannot be the answer. It's not enough. It might be the urge for eternal life, for being a god, for creating worlds and being able to switch between worlds, switch between times, bodies, beings. And this should be possible, I think. So,
Continuing that line of thought with regards to your fantasies, what are some fantasies from your creativity and imaginations that you have in mind in your ideal metaverse?
it would be amazing not to be bound by physical laws and biological laws. So maybe the perfect metaverse is not graphic at all. I'm not sure. Maybe we go back to a text adventure or a sound adventure or something else, because it seems everything that's visual restricts again our fantasy or our craft of imagining things because someone else has imagined. It's like reading a book and watching the movie. Like if the director imagines the book and he puts it into, or she puts it into these pictures he or she imagines, then it's their imagination, not mine. It's like my dream is only my dream and it looks amazing to me. Doesn't mean it looks amazing to others. But if I'd had to, because the VC wants it to be a graphical world, should be graphical, then it would look maybe different for everyone. Maybe everyone
But
can choose.
if it wasn't graphical, because this is completely new sound that I'm hearing,
Yeah.
would I envision then?
Just imagine now, because we have this technology and 3D is so advanced and spatial internet is finally, able to evolve. I think somehow people feel forced to use it, to use these new technologies and build a spatial internet. But what about the human power to abstract things? Many things are much simpler to grasp on a 2D plane than if you have to move through a city to understand the same things. A map shows me maybe more information in a shorter time than if I have to walk around the whole earth. So we need to think about when to use which tool. The justification for 3D or a spatial internet needs to be there. It's not just for the fun of it.
Have you seen some examples so far that you're like, okay, these are actually applications of the metaverse that I understand, that I can see myself in?
I'm now playing a lot the devil's advocate here, so we can have an interesting discussion going on. Of course, there are interesting and good examples, but maybe we can learn more from the examples where we have to question ourselves, like virtual trade shows, for example, or expos. Why do we recreate a convention center or a trade show site where we have spatial limitations just to build again, to rebuild booths and stands like we have in real world or in a virtual conference? Why do we build a stage again to put one avatar on and then people have to fight for the best place in the first row? Or people have to fight for who gets this booth space at the trade center. I understand, of course, it's just a metaphor and it's easy for a lot of people to understand because they know it from the real world, but they bring with it the same problems of spatial scarcity. And it would be amazing now that we live in digital worlds where there is no spatial scarcity. Everything can be eternal and forever and never ending, unless of course our power goes off. Why do we recreate it? So I urge people to be again more like these children. They created worlds out of their imagination and they became a stone or became an apple or became a leaf or a flower, and it was no problem. And now a male movie producer tells me, no, I cannot identify with a female character in a movie. Why can you not jump? Where is your empathy? Is empathy... and this is a real thing that happened to me when this movie producer told me. I couldn't believe it myself. So you never identified with Bambi? No, I cannot identify with an animal. And I couldn't even identify with a female human. So what happens to us if we lose this power to empathize and identify with different species or beings? Because this is now possible again in the meta world or the metaverse, and I would really like to, if I'd create a metaverse again, to train this in people, maybe to train this empathy towards a flower or a stone or a tree. There has been this amazing VR experience where you become a tree and feel like how it is to grow in the sun and feel the rain, and then suddenly you're cut by a chainsaw. So it's you can feel so many new things if it's done right. But if you recreate the same stuff, there's nothing to gain for mankind, I think. It's our chance to enhance.
Yeah, deeply intriguing. You touched upon a couple of issues already: sexual harassment, the lack of imagination, replicating the real world. What do you think the three key or core questions and challenges we currently have with constructing and building this metaverse?
I think key is that the builders of the metaverse, and this now goes back to your question about my thesis, that the builders are very diverse. So there have been very interesting initiatives like Project Sansar back in the day, who tried to give the tools to the people. Like everyone should be able to create these 3D models and stuff, but still it was much too complicated. Or even worlds like Second Life that are running now since 20 years and still go strong and now have to be observed again, are not as mainstream because they're not as easy to control, or have been at least in the past. Maybe they're changing stuff now. So this limits who is creating the world and who lives in it. So I think we have to move on in terms of tool building so that it becomes really easy. So like nowadays everyone can now do, let's say, a podcast or a website. Or in the early days you had to hire a company and they charge a lot of money for it, and it has to become as easy like that. And again, there are movements like Mozilla Hubs, for example, makes it easy, and you can train your virtual etiquette in platforms like VR Chat and stuff like that, or Altspace VR. So, but then again, it's very important if people come together, what about the community? How is the community built up? Is it nice people, or is it people you don't want to be around with? What about the moderation? How do you report problems? Is there freedom of speech, or do you need some censorship? These are political questions, philosophical questions, ethical questions, and I think it might depend from metaverse to metaverse. So there is a style to every world.
Should the builder?
Mhm.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Go.
There is a style to every world. So maybe you want a world where you just can run free, and maybe sometimes you want a world where everything is protected. So I'm not the one to put my rules onto someone else. I don't feel like that. But I want to be in a world where I feel safe. So when I created Papermint, we already thought about how can we recreate this feeling of it feels real but does not have to look real. So we built a 3D environment, and you could move freely around the whole world, but we were made of paper. We were made of 2D paper avatars, which already put away a lot of these sexual problems, and it also gave us amazing possibilities of traveling large distances, which have always been a problem in 3D environments, because in a web space, web page, you just click on a hyperlink on there. But in a 3D world, you have to walk there or move there or have a car or whatever. When you're paper, if it was small distances, you could crumple your avatar and roll. And if it was large distances on water, you could turn into a paper ship and were very quick, and even quicker when you become a paper plane. And so these were fun ways to travel. It gave people a lot of creativity. You could design your own vehicles and color them, and so you could do basically everything. You could even marry and have children, and your paper baby would be literally the next user logging in or signing up, coming into this world. So this newbie who has no idea about the world would learn from the parents who decided to marry and have a kid and wanted to bring up another user. So these were these kind of ideas we had. Also, can an avatar age? If you have a physical look again, will you always be amazing and look amazing, or can you show your weaknesses? Will you age? Will you die somehow? How does this look like? So a personality. So what is an avatar? Is it just a skin? But if it's just a skin, who is it filled by? It's very important, if it is just a skin and just looks, that we have this authentication protocol. You have to know that this looks only belong to this person. Otherwise, everyone could control this look or this skin like a puppet, and it's very. I think you wouldn't feel very comfy in a world where you don't know at all who is behind the skin, and it's very often like this right now. So this authentication is a big thing. I think you have to really reflect upon in any new world you create, or your looks are defined already by your player behavior. And now I say player behavior, but just your behavior in this world. It could show like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in your face, or your movements, or your garments, or whatever, how you behave. In Papermint, because we didn't want to destroy basically the looks you design, we had like a bubble hovering over your head that showed parts of the chosen personality traits. Like, for example, you are rather peaceful than aggressive, but is this really true in your player behavior? So you had different values and that showed what you want to be and how you actually are. And already from a large distance in the world, when there are many avatars at a big group, you could already see easily, oh, this is a person I don't want to really talk to, I don't want to be approached by, or this person seems to be really nice because it behaved nice during the last months. So it's not about your looks so much, it's about your behavior. So there are a lot of different ways to think about. So where are they in these worlds that are created now?
Really interesting. I can also imagine that, let's say I find myself amazing, I really 100% associate my physical representation with myself. Well, that's actually personally, I find that kind of strange because how we are looking is completely arbitrary. Of course, I can influence what I'm drinking, which skin cream I'm using, what I'm eating, but at the end of the day, it's still arbitrary how I look, what my name is. It are just arbitrary features. But how would someone that does have that strong and deep association with this outer view acquire an open mind towards adopting to become a tree in the metaverse? Because now it seems more that's also an educational or psychological process, not necessarily a technical thesis or whether we can create, because I think we can create those things.
It's a very good question. Of course, you enjoy this stage to play a role. Finally, you can be this thing or person or whatever you always want to be and cannot be in the real world. And this possibility should be given to you. I think when you feel like I am a rock star and I want to look like a rock star and be a rock star, then be it in the metaverse. Please, please, thanks God, finally you can do it. But you shouldn't be limited by the choices the metaverse gives you. If it's just, you can only be a human, but if I want to be a dog, why can't I be a dog? What's the problem? It's a digital world. Give it to me. So I think that's important. And you don't feel like a rock star maybe every day. So how can your character choose with your moods and your... Will you have different characters? Again, that's very important, or avatars. So you really have to make the difference. Do you play a role as a character, or is it just your skin as an avatar? Is it yourself? How similar is it to your real self, like a Wii me, for example, a Nintendo me? You should have the complete freedom. But authenticity is the key for how many roles you can play, because if you can control several, like an army of puppets, and nobody knows who you are, in the end, I don't think it adds to our limited human social experience. We are not yet, connected to each other like mentally as one big mankind. We're still thinking as individuals, and this is also the problem, because we think this is my ego, my individual, this is my looks, this is my avatar. I pay a lot of money now for this handbag, this virtual handbag or whatever, because it's mine, I want to show it. So we reproduce again these behavior of possessing things, be it territory, vehicles, garments, or looks. Again, Snow Crash, the novel by Neil Stephenson, showed us everything. It's you pay a lot of money for the best looks, you pay a lot of money for the best vehicles that travel you fast across the metaverse, you pay a lot of money for virtual real estate. But that's a nice game, but it's like Monopoly again. Monopoly all over, a board game in a digital environment. And also, this is not a spatial internet or 3D world, and it's amazing because as long as it's on a flat screen, be it on a computer screen or a mobile phone or on the flat screen on your glasses, physically, if you talk to a physicist who knows about dimensions, it's still 2D. Just looks 3D, but it is flat. So we are not yet in a different dimension. Although again, like about why do we build metaverse verses and want to enter these kind of roles, I think it's the urge to defy our physical and biological limits, to reach a different dimension or travel to different dimensions. And this is much more than just rebuilding 3D on a flat screen.
Do you think at some point, because I read a lot of articles that try to do predictions on, okay, in 2026 we will spend at least 1 or 3 hours in the metaverse. Do you see it realistic that we reach a point that the time we spend in the metaverse is becoming more than in the real verse, as you call it in your article? Or what's your idea about that?
I think we already spend a lot of time in not real verses anyway. As soon as you dive into a book, as soon as you dive into a game or a newspaper, whatever, you are not there in the present anyway. When you spend your time on the mobile phone with your social media, you're not there anyway. So I don't think it's a big difference. If you are there now or there, it doesn't matter actually. So, but when you really talk about
honestly,
when you really talk about
frankly, I do think there is a difference though, because if I'm immersed in a Oculus Quest glass, I cannot engage with you like I would have physically. So I think that there is a significant difference instead of being physically present with each other.
No, of course, again, a devil's advocate, but I think your mind nowadays is also very often not present because it's already immersed in something else, let's say.
Yeah, true,
But
absolutely.
of course, if you talk about will we spend a lot of time in VR or AR, let's say if VR or AR is the main key to open the door to the metaverses, I think it's the most exciting key to open the metaverse, because again, we can be in a metaverse instantly on a text adventure or on a 3D game and an MMO, or like let's play Fortnite or whatever. So we are Roblox, we're already there, so it's not something new. But if we enter like an MMO in VR, let's say, it will feel very different in the beginning. The novelty factor will be exciting, but how long does the novelty factor last? If the justification of a VR or AR metaverse is big enough or is there, then we will spend a lot of time in it. It's like, what is the killer app again? What is the killer reason to enter this?
What are the new Googles and Facebooks of the metaverse?
Yeah, what is the killer reason to leave this present to move into another present? If it is because planet A is destroyed, then of course. So, but I don't hope that any VC firm would destroy this planet just to build another verse. Of course, I think we will spend a lot of this is not stoppable anyway. We will spend a lot of time in different realities, be it augmented or virtual, whatever you want to call it then, because they will blend anyway all together, and it doesn't matter how you enter. Of course, it's a very different feeling if you enter in VR or AR, but in the end, you will be there and you will use it like we use the internet now, because the metaverse is just another form of the internet. So we will spend a lot of time there without any doubt. And it's more fun, I think. It's more real. On the one hand, I'm also kind of split, because on the one hand I think, wow, it's amazing to have it in 3D and spatial, and you have avatars and you are present there because in VR, because it's much more intuitive. What we did to mankind since the 70s and 80s, like being stuck in front of a flat screen, or not even flat in the early days, and the keyboard and the mouse and whatever, like this is so not ourselves. It's not our bodies, it's not our minds, but we are now used to it. So only 3 generations, and we're so used to it that we rebuild a virtual workspace in VR with a virtual keyboard and a virtual screen. How paradox is that? This is something I cannot at all understand. If I'd create a virtual workspace, then I could use my body and my hands and my voice, and I would not be stuck again on a keyboard. I would have to think about other things and not recreate the computer, the PC experience. So, where were we? Sorry.
Yeah, I have a whole variety of questions based on what you're saying,
Oh yeah,
but
sorry, I
I
was
think
split. That was it.
ah
So I think it's amazing to be finally free of all these peripherals. But again, then we have to think, and maybe that's the step after. Why do we recreate the biological and physical limits and limitations we have? And this especially shows when we create human-looking avatars. As soon as someone is human-looking, this person can be hurt, but can be also loved. But yeah, it's why? Why do we do this? Can't we think further? I wish we could. I wish more people could. And I would like to enter a metaverse where I don't have to be human. Although it's great to be a human, but maybe it's amazing to be a stone
yeah.
or a cloud.
Let's fast forward 10 years, because it seems like you have a crystal ball. How would the world how do you see the world in 10 years?
Thanks for the crystal ball. For me, everything moves too slowly. So
Okay.
nothing changed for me from my childhood, where I lived in my imagination in these worlds, to now, where now I have to enter worlds that look much worse than the ones I imagined without any technology. I used to say in my lectures that I gave about VR, forget about the VR glasses. Your best way to enter these worlds is your eyelids. Just close them, and then you are there, and you do it every night in your dreams. So why do we need all this technology? It seems like either we lost our power to imaginate, so we need this technology, or it's just business to sell hardware and then software and then hardware again and software, and this hardware that piles up with new glasses that makes me sick, to be honest, because oh no, I know it's just a step. It's just a step. And I think already about the holodeck in Star Trek, where you need nothing, just a spaceship. Spaceship is also a pile of waste, but still it's exciting to really travel. And in a spaceship, you need this, because it's really boring to be in a little prison in a really lethal environment that is outer space for generations. You need something that sparks again your mind as a human. And there are several ways to enter it. And if you read science fiction, there is everything there already, if it's drugs or if it's technology or something else. So a holodeck is a very healthy option to enter, and you can physically, as long as we still have these physical bodies and are bound by our bodies, we need to take care of them. And so you want to combine what you imagine in your mind with the physical well-being as well.
Thanks for sharing that. What do you think the events are that need to be happen, or what the follow-up steps would be to reach this state of not only thinking about monopolizing and or commercializing a metaverse? Should we as individuals do something? Is it the builders? Is it the government? What would be a approach or game plan that you foresee?
It reminds me very much, so now what happens with the metaverse, that every brand and every company is building their own little metaverse. It reminds me so
Yeah, it's like a race.
It's like a race, like the space race in the beginning of 2019, and it's like what they did, when the first websites came up, and then the first flash games, and then we all need this and we all need that. Do we need to appeal to our consumers? It's exactly the same. So we just have to wait until this is over. For me, this is the boring phase. and then something exciting comes up. The real reasons why we build the metaverse. We don't build a metaverse to buy, I mean, I don't, to buy a Ferrari there or have the newest Nike shoes, which is exciting, of course. I don't say no, but this is not the reason of building new worlds. And I think we have to wait until this phase is over. And then it's like with the internet again, it's like blossoming and blooming. And of course, maybe again big corporations will turn up and control everything, but maybe not. It's really upon us. It's very important to give everyone the possibility to create this metaverse. And it's not now just how it looks like and the 3D models and how to create like the graphical items for such a metaverse, but also its economies. So can everyone create NFTs and get rich, or can everyone understand cryptocurrencies and really deal with it? So we have to democratize all these kind of tools. So not, again, only a few, the chosen 10,000s, live in these metaverses and maybe live upon others. So
But then the follow-up question would be, okay, we are doing this podcast, so hopefully some people will listen to it. But what are some tools that people can pick up and say, okay, I see this, I want to contribute in this movement, and I want to have a positive impact. What could individuals do, or what could organizations do with only laser focusing on making profit?
So I think it's very important to start early on. So our children are already the generations that will not only live, they have to live in the worlds we are building. So not only the real world, but also the metaverses. So they should be good metaverses, but they should already be given the interest and maybe tools, if they're already there, to build metaverses themselves or create stuff for the metaverse, because they are the ones who have the imagination still. And I don't want to leave a bad legacy also in terms of metaverses for them. I think, like as you said, like these kind of institutions, I think media literacy is more important than ever. And media literacy nowadays also involves, of course, primarily the metaverse. You have to find your way in this new world. It's already hard to function as a human being in this world, socially, and especially socially. But how difficult will it be if you have different worlds even to move along and move across? In this world you behave like that, in that world it's okay to do this, in that world no. So it will be very, very important to learn this kind of metaverse etiquette or metaverse netiquettes across all these different worlds that will emerge. It will be interesting to see if there will be some kind of a common ground or human rights for metaverses. And again, this is very dependent on if we have bodies or not. I mean, if we have physical human avatars or not. Because a lot of human rights are, of course, also based upon the fact that we are physical beings and we need food and we don't want to be hurt on our bodies. But this is not the case in a metaverse or a digital world. So there will be new rules coming up, and we have to see how they will emerge. I think a lot of stuff comes up anyway. It's not things we can control. We have to wait and see if a lot of people are there, how the behavior is and how they feel in these new bodies and these avatars, and what happens, what can happen. A lot of things cannot be forecast. We just have to see, observe, and have to imagine, always with this goal in our this light tower. We want to create better worlds, and not again like a second World War world where it's fun to shoot people or something. I mean, of course we can do it, but why?
Sounds like there's still some really complex questions which we haven't kind of figured out yet, and perhaps it may also be a bit seem a bit dystopical, and that we are present in all those dynamics and all those big companies. But what are some perhaps close off with some positive, optimistic notes that you could share with the listeners.
Well, I'm at the moment I'm a bit bored, of course, what's called metaverse, but again, this is just a phase we're in now. So everyone jumps on it and everyone wants to make profit, and if you want to make profit on something, nothing super exciting comes out normally. So as when we have jumped over this phase and other powers are able to create these metaverses, I'm sure something exciting will emerge. And maybe also something exciting can emerge out from a profitable metaverse when more people are in it and make it their own, like people made the internet their own somehow. Of course, you can argue we're all controlled by the big companies, but I don't feel controlled at all, I have to say. And I think people who are media literate and reflective, and this is what we have to teach our kids, then we might have really amazing worlds where we want to live in as well. It's just an additional amazing way to live in, or to gain new experiences. And if my most positive wish would be that these technologies and the metaverses are a stepping stone onto mankind in general to wake up or to evolve into a species that's more empathic, more in the present, more social with each other, more understanding. Yeah, this could be another way of enlightenment somehow. This is what I see these digital technologies for in the first place. They helped us a lot with communication and connection. So why do we need this so much? Because then as a mankind, we can wake up as a whole and not just as an individual. So
Thanks.
all telecommunication companies that say connecting people and this and that, they should really do it and then ask, why do they connect the people? And the people should be connected, hopefully, for something positive. Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful and super powerful message. And yeah, this is complete kind of mind blowing, because there's so many new perspectives that I have heard. It's completely different angle, and I think in that way you're also kind of authentic and unique in your thinking. There will probably also be some thoughts that you said that people cannot definitely resonate directly resonate with, or cannot directly imagine it. But I think it's super interesting, and I'm really interested to find out and unpack these questions more deeply as time passes by. Where, Barbara, can people find you and follow you?
So I'm very happy if you start connecting with me on LinkedIn, or write to me on LinkedIn. You can find me easily under my name. I think that's the easiest at the moment. And yeah, I'm very glad to keep up the conversation. Something we didn't touch upon, especially with the avatar question, was it's a very cultural thing as well, cultural differences, because different cultures have different aesthetics, and what maybe people in Austria might not be the same, like people on the Philippines find appealing. So it's very interesting to combine that as well. We have to, as you said, we are sometimes imprisoned in what we know, and this is also our real world culture as well. So we have to, if we want to build a global metaverse, then this has to be global as well.
Super interesting, super interesting. Well, I have so many questions. I wish I had unlimited time, but I think we should definitely do a second or even third part
We should start
to
like
hear
a
your
philosophical
thoughts.
metaverse session.
Series. Yeah, perhaps I'm definitely gonna think about it. But yeah, Barbara, thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to your contribution in this space. I will share your LinkedIn profile also line, so people can find you there and the articles that you are writing. And yeah, we will absolutely be staying in touch.
Thank you so much, Samir, for letting me share these ideas that might seem too far for a lot of people, but I think, yeah, they're the exciting ones.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're
Bye.
welcome.